Hello, ladies and gentlemen, board game enthusiasts of all ages. Welcome to another wonderful episode of the Escape the Board podcast. My name is Connor Slagowski, and joining me as always,
Charles Holm. Hey, welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about some board game mechanics. Now, of course, we all love board games here, and a lot of them fall into kind of different categories that can kind of describe their play styles and strategies. So we're going to be talking about some of those different categories today.
And there are so many categories that we certainly can't fit them all into one board game or one video, excuse me. So
one board game episode.
one board game. You know what? That's something we should do. Try to build a board game with every style involved.
Now, we've got some pretty good ideas going on about a game that we want to build, and I think we should do that one first.
Yeah,
but after
probably.
that, we should, let's go crazy and see how many mechanics we can fit into one game.
That would be nuts.
It's going to be a mess to play. No one's going to enjoy it. It's going to be trash.
It's just going to exist to exist.
Yes. The only reason to ever pull it out is to troll your friends because you're the one person that bothered to sit down for 4 hours and read the rules.
But because there are so many, we're going to limit the amount that we go over today. And I think a good place to start is probably engine builders.
Oh, yeah. Engine builders are a great game mechanic. If I had to describe basically how it works, is you're taking some resources and you put them towards some development system that's going to help you gain more resources. That's pretty much the base of it.
Yeah. The name of the game with engine builders is efficiency.
Yes, absolutely.
Creating a system or engine, hence the name engine builder, that will push your efficiency to the max so that you can be more productive than your opponents.
Right. So we're talking like Monopoly?
No.
Hold on. Hear me out. I start with some cash. I pay the cash down to get some properties. People land on my properties. I get more cash back. Isn't that how an engine builder?
No.
I pay money in. I get money out.
No. That is not how that works.
No, I think maybe it is.
When we say engine builder, we're talking more like Expedition or
Terraforming
Mars, Eris Expedition, or Terraforming Mars, the base game.
Not to finish the sentences on that one, but just so you're all aware, this isn't scripted. We've just been talking about Terraforming Mars a lot over the last couple of months.
We have. But it is a good example because we have already done an episode on it.
Sure.
So those that have watched the previous episodes have an idea of how the game works. And it is an engine builder. You collect cards to create a system that in turn gives you more of those resources that in turn give you victory points.
Speaking of resources, one thing that Terraforming Mars has that I think, I'm not going to say is universal because it's definitely not by any means, but one thing that you're going to see pretty frequently in an engine builder, also thinking games like Wingspan, for any of you that have played it out there, Terraforming Mars has, like 4 or 5 different resources that you're collecting and that you turn around and keep utilizing. So again, not saying that is a definite have to have for an engine builder, but one thing you're going to see a lot is some variety in resources.
Right. And I think that's what makes Terraforming Mars such a great game.
Oh, yeah.
We looked it up before, and the definition, what one individual defined as a great game is a game that has equal parts strategy and luck. And
I wouldn't say it's equal, but there's got to be a balance in there.
Right.
Yeah.
And Terraforming Mars has both in spades.
Oh my gosh.
You've got the luck of the cards, and you've got the strategy of how you use those cards.
Look, I'm not going to claim that I'm the best Terraforming Mars player, but I consistently...
But you're claiming?
I consistently beat you and your brothers almost every single time. And the one time that we put it on stream, I got screwed over on my draw.
But you also chose a corporation that has a very limited use. If you pull that use, if you can manage to use it, it was a beautiful...
I promise it was the better of the two options.
Ouch.
It was, yeah.
Ouch.
I had no luck that one particular game.
Dang.
And
honestly, I kind of screwed myself at the beginning of that game because I had Helion as an option. And I threw it away for variety.
Not to spend too much time on Terraforming Mars, but if you ever do pick it up and you get Helion as an option for your corporate, take it.
It is so good.
I am mostly sure it is definitely the best corporation in the game. Definitely
very well could be. Out of everything that we've pulled, it has been definitely the best corporation in the game.
The one thing
there are so many options though.
Dialing back to engine builders, the one thing it's got going for it is you can double dip on resources.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing.
You can build heat, you can build mega credits, you can build plants.
You want your engine to chug along, and it's
and for those of you that caught our Terraforming Mars episode, Tyson's engine for the action phase was beautiful.
Right, but it was
especially towards the end.
It worked, but it's also an odd engine. And again, I don't want to get too much into
it's an oddity. It's not.
We got 2 other videos all covering Terraforming Mars. We don't want to spend too much time on it. But yeah, that was not a safe way to play that game.
No, it's not. But he managed.
Luck and strategy. They don't give a crap.
Another really strong engine builder game that we will probably cover in we will cover in a future episode.
Yeah.
And that you have already mentioned is Wingspan.
Yeah, and one thing I like about Wingspan, again, with the different resources, is you've got to balance how much food you're hoarding and how many eggs you're collecting.
Yeah. Speaking of eggs you're collecting, not long ago we were at one of our game nights and we were sitting down and we were playing Wingspan. It was the 2 of us and a couple other people. And I had a great egg builder engine.
It was pretty good.
And I was set to win the game. And then I had to step away to talk to a customer because, as you do, you're running a business, that's fine. And in order to save time and not wait forever for me to get back, they decided to use the single player card-based AI to take my turn for me. And it moved one of my birds out of my waterlands, which was a necessary part of my victory plan.
Yeah, don't let AI play games for you.
No.
We gave it 1 turn and it broke
it messed up my entire game.
Shoved a screwdriver right into the main
into the eye sockets.
I was going to
my game plan.
I was going to stick like the engine analogy, but sure, yeah, into the eye
socket. Shoved a screwdriver into the gears of my engine and completely threw it off rails. It was not okay with me. I dropped a few F-bombs. Now,
one thing
not on purpose.
One thing that's also pretty common with engine builders is, at the end of the game, you've got to be able to decide who's got the best engine, right?
Yeah.
And so one thing that you'll see pretty often with engine builders is victory points is a very, very common mechanic. And obviously you'll find victory points in lots and lots of games.
A lot of games.
But engine builders tend to have them because you need a way to calculate who's got the strongest engine.
It's how you decide who has been the most victorious, obviously, victory points.
One thing about Wingspan that I think is a hilarious little gimmick, and it's really hard to try and build an engine that's not an egg engine because of this, but in Wingspan, eggs are victory points and resources.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
double dipping.
You look at Terraforming Mars and they do the same thing. Mega credits.
Mega credits are victory point.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Forests. They're not resources necessarily, but they're a double dip.
They are a double dip, but they're not a great double dip.
Which is fair.
Because they're not really easy to access. I mean, you can build an engine that'll just rake them in for you, but the way Terraforming Mars is structured, it'll cut you off.
That's true. But I think that pretty much covers the 2 deck builders that we have in our collection.
Deck builders.
Or engine builders.
Well, I mean, it depends on how loosey-goosey we want to get with the definition of engine builder. Because
Splendor.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Splender's a good.
I mean, it's got some engine building mechanics.
I know you're iffy on whether or not it's an engine builder. I would consider Splendor an engine builder.
Look, here's the facts. In Splendor, you spend resources to gain production that gives you resources.
That's the point.
And that's an engine builder, right? So bottom line, sure, it's an engine builder. It's got a victory point system, just like many other engine builders. But Splendor is a very, very small, basic, I'd say entry-level game. Could be. Especially when it comes to engine builders. It's really easy to understand the rules. It's really easy to jump into, and there's not a lot of strategy with it. So I'm not saying
can be
there. Well, and I mean, you can say the same thing with almost any other entry level game. You can find ways to screw over the competition. Like, I mean, chess is not a hard game to pick up. Lots of people try and teach their kid chess at a relatively young age. But I mean, you look at the grandmasters and stuff. It's a very complex game, and it's very easy to figure out the strategies that just screw everyone over.
That's fair.
So, yes, saying that there's not an opportunity to get complex isn't necessarily the same thing as saying it's not an entry-level game.
I would still call it an engine builder. It is fairly entry-level. It is very simple as far as games go. And if you're looking for something really simple and really quick to play, actually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a fast game.
It is such a fun game, though. And we'll cover that in another video, too.
Yeah, honestly, I wish that every time I played it, I paid a little more attention to what the production looks like. But basically in Splendor, what you're doing is you're producing gems, and the gems are going to let you buy more production and to persuade noblemen to come and grant you their boons.
So the way Splendor works is you can take one of two actions. You can either collect gems or you can collect cards using those gems. And each gem you spend for a card generally gives you just a free gem that you have just sitting there. So as you build diamonds, you have 3 diamonds. There's a 3-diamond card. That's just a free take. Does that not make sense?
No. I mean, you're right. Connor's right, but
and that's the engine part of it. Is you're building your gem resources in card form,
right? And
so that you're not using your turn to take gem tokens.
And I respect that, but that's also the reason I have a little bit of a hiccup with it, because when you're collecting these cards, they're not giving you actual gems. They just work as a discount. And it works. It is an engine builder. It is.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not saying it's not, but it doesn't follow some of the other typical patterns that you'll see with a lot of engine builders.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
Yes, I will not give you stuff, but how about discounts? Discounts are good. We like discounts.
I like discounts. Discounts are fun.
It gets out of hand, though, because Splendor discounts, you get up to yes, I've got 8 free of every resource. Let me just collect everything on the board.
Yep. That's what makes it. I enjoyed Splendor. That's a game that we're fairly new to.
Yeah.
And I mean, 1 or 2 playthroughs we've had has been...
We only picked it up, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been a good time, though. I enjoyed Splendor very much. And I think that... Do we want to cover anything else for Engine Builder?
Well, I mean, post your questions and comments, and we'll respond to those. Might make a follow-up video if there's, a lot. But I mean, jumping ahead, honestly, the next one I kind of want to talk about is deck builders. Personally.
Okay. I was gonna try to bring that up too, but a little bit later. My personal favorite type of game is deck builder.
That's why I wanted to bring it in, is because you and I have played so many different deck builders, and we're very, very comfortable and really enjoy the genre.
That's true. So in a deck builder, you start with a very basic deck of normally 10 or 15 cards.
Generally 10. Whatever number of cards. What I've seen in most deck builders, it almost always starts you with a deck of 10, and then from that you draw a starting hand of 5.
Right. No, that makes
9 times out of 10.
So you start with a deck of 10 generally. You do draw 5 at the start of the turn.
Generally.
And then you use those cards, and they give you energy or points to spend, whatever the system is during the game. And you use those points to acquire other cards that are then added to your deck. And as your deck runs out, you reshuffle it and you play again using those new cards that you've bought. And your deck gets stronger.
Just
it becomes more efficient. It's not always an engine that you're building, although you like to play the engine builder deck builder games.
Here's the thing. My favorite deck builder is the DC deck builder.
Yes.
And one simple broken mechanic in it are ongoing cards. That's a card that you play it and it just stays on the field and just keeps working. It's a good card.
They are great cards. But as Charles mentioned, the DC deck builder, and we've got several versions of that because we enjoy it so much. I know you've got what, 3?
4, I think. 3 or 4.
And I've got 4.
Yeah.
So between the two of us, we've got 8 different versions. Well, between single player, dual player, co-op, and expansions that add different rules based on the expansion.
And of course, the classic head-to-head.
Yeah. Like, we've got so much for this game, and it's because we enjoy it so much. In the DC deck builder, you do choose a character to play as, generally a hero. In the base game,
there's definitely variants that let you pick villains.
I actually, that's one of the versions I have, is the you pick a villain and you actually fight the heroes as the main cohorts.
Yeah, and then I've got a variant that's a one-on-one version where one player plays a hero and the other plays a villain.
Right.
Specifically, I've got the Batman versus Joker variant. So that's pretty. That's a good one. It's pretty spicy.
And it's like each expansion changes the game just a little bit to keep it fresh. But even the base game, before we ever got, before you ever got expansions, because Charles had this game long before I ever got into it. Just the base game, we played the crap out of that thing over and over and over, and that game is different every time you play it.
Speaking of playing the crap out of it, so I mean, we probably played that game over and over again for like 6-7 months, and then Connor picked up something called Hogwarts Battle.
Harry Potter, the Battle for Hogwarts.
Battle for Hogwarts, yeah.
Which is another deck builder.
And we ran that one for like another 4 months straight.
Right. If you haven't figured it out, we love deck builders.
It's a good model.
Harry Potter Battle for Hogwarts is a lot simpler than the DC as far as choices and characters.
Yeah.
The base box comes with Harry, Ron, Hermione, or Neville as playable characters. There is an expansion that I also have that adds the blonde. Why can I not remember her name right now?
This is very embarrassing, I swear.
This is very embarrassing. We both very much enjoy Harry Potter.
We both watched all the movies.
Luna,
thank you. We both watched all the movies several times and have read the books. Please do not judge us. It's called a brain fart and it happens.
It does. So the expansion adds Luna and a bunch of other mechanics to the game. But you actually start in year 1 as game 1, so the base box comes in 7 different games.
Yeah, and it actually separates it into different boxes, doesn't it?
Yes. So you start year 1, game 1 with very simple versions of the playable characters. You're battling Voldemort and Dementors, and the Basilisk comes out in game 2, and
the Death Eaters come out in game 3.
Right, like, so as the game progresses, as you move into these other boxes, you encounter new Death Eater events, you encounter new villains, you encounter new cards that you can get, new allies and spells, and it's such a great game.
You know what else does that? The Pathfinder card game.
Yeah, but that's more of a running story game.
Well, I mean, only slightly more than the Hogwarts Battle is.
True. But, I mean, that is also a deck builder of sorts.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, it is. But one thing that Pathfinder's got going for it that's very unique from any other deck builder that I've seen is you don't enlarge your deck per se. You swap cards out for better cards as you go. And so you still have that thing where you're, drawing cards and you're getting better cards than you did, 4 rounds ago.
But at the end of each adventure, you're resetting your deck back to a certain size.
Exactly. But I mean, it's still got that strong mechanic in it where I'm going to buy this card and it's going to make my deck stronger and I'm going to play better because of it.
Yeah. Another thing about the Harry Potter game is as the games progress, I think it's game 4 and 7.
Yeah.
You get better versions of the characters that have additional abilities. And I think that's something that's really cool with the Harry Potter deck builder too.
Man, not to shill in Pathfinder again, but they do actually offer you an upgrade on those characters too. Now we've never gotten to that point.
We've never finished that game.
Let me be blunt. it is a fun game, but it is challenging.
It is very challenging.
There's a very harsh time limit on it, and it is very easy to run out of hit points because Pathfinder is a Pathfinder, the tabletop role playing game, is a D&D-esque TTRGP. And so the Pathfinder card game kind of falls along those same tracks.
RPG.
PG-13. But yeah, no. So in the Pathfinder game, you're playing
PGA.
as monks and wizards and barbarians, and you're fighting goblins and dragons.
It's a great game, though.
It is a good game. And like we were saying, we've never gotten to the point where we can upgrade those characters, but they do come with one upgrade at some point where you can kind of rotate their class into a prestige class.
Oh. Yeah, we've never gotten to that point.
You not even looked at those cards?
Probably not. That sounds new to me.
Remind me to show you sometime later, because those are fun prestiges.
Anyways, little off topic. Still on topic, little off topic. Anyways, another deck builder that I've been meaning to get into, which I might have been the original deck builder, but it's definitely a classic deck builder. I don't know if it is the actual original, but Dominion. I want to try.
Have you not played Dominion?
I have not played Dominion. Sheldon, our good friend Sheldon, he has Dominion. And we sat down and attempted to start playing it at one point, but then everybody at the table got too drunk to actually focus.
Okay, well, I might catch a little bit of flack for this. Don't get me wrong, Dominion's a good game, and it's a good entry game for deck builders. It is. It's fun, it's quick, it's unique almost every playthrough until you start playing with people that understand the strategy of it, and then they just kick your butt every single time. There's nothing you do about it. So when I say, and please forgive me when I say, Dominion is probably my least favorite deck builder.
Oh.
It is because I play with my brother who builds witches every time. Witches give off negative victory points to everyone else every time they come up.
Oh.
And he hoards them and he buys them so fast, and I don't know how to catch up to him because he's got the perfect balance of collecting money, things that will give him the money to buy more witches and still get the witches out. He's got a good balance on it. So I get screwed over every single time. I'm good at board games. I am, I promise. And I'm good at deck building games. I am, I promise. But my older brother, he's got Dominion figured out in a way that I struggle to even try and catch up with him.
Gotcha.
That being said, I will say that Dominion is designed to be much faster. And there is a lot less versatility than what you'll find in other deck builders that we've played, at least.
Gotcha.
So, like, you think of DC or Hogwarts or Pathfinder, you've got like this huge main deck, and you've got random stuff coming out all the time, and it's a total change up every playthrough. Well, in Dominion, you've got very specific piles of the same card.
Oh.
And the game ends when 3 piles run out.
Gotcha.
So there's a stack of witches, and there's a stack of moats or whatever, and you usually start with, I want to say it's 10 decks, and then, plus there's like silver and gold and copper, and then you've got like your victory points and that you buy into victory points, and some of the main field cards are going to give you victory points as well, but there's the main victory points is what I'm getting at. But yeah, as soon as 3 separate decks run out of cards, the game is over, and it happens way too fast every time because Alan empties out the witches. Don't get me wrong, there's a few variants where there's no witches, and then it's actually a race, but yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple other witch adjacent cards in there as well.
Understood. Another deck builder that I would love to try is the Marvel deck builder.
Yeah.
I'm a big Marvel fan. We
Marvel's
both
good.
are. We're both very into the MCU. And I mean, I don't know if you can see it through the camera. I have the Marvel Champions game back there, which we may or may not cover in a future video as well.
We'll probably cover it.
Probably cover it.
Eventually.
which is a game I definitely want to get more expansions to, but that's a point for another video. But I very much enjoy Marvel, and I would love to try the Marvel deck builder, which I think it's called Legacy.
That sounds about right. I haven't tried it either. I've looked into it a couple of times, mostly because I got really into their dice builder game.
That's something we definitely need to cover in another video.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's definitely not a deck builder game.
Well, no.
But the mechanics are basically... Oh, the game itself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we can do
actually
that.
do a video on the Marvel dice builder games, because those are fun.
Plug a little shill in right here. Deck builders don't always have to be decks. I mean, they do. They do. Don't hear me out. So the Marvel dice builder game functions exactly like a deck builder. It's got all the same basic rules. It functions almost identically, except you're trying to get more dice instead of more cards.
Right.
Yeah. It's basically a deck builder. They just changed the design of one of the mechanics.
Yeah, why not?
The main mechanic.
Porque no dos.
Exactly.
Don't come after me for my Spanish. I do not speak Spanish fluently.
You probably never should try.
Probably.
Yeah, so deck builders. I like those. Good stuff.
Obviously, I mean, we've spent a good chunk of time on this. We both very much enjoyed deck builders. Definitely one of my top 3 game mechanics. I would call it top 3.
Well, I'm trying to decide whether or not it's top 1.
Oh, that's fair.
Definitely.
It may be top 1. I didn't want to be so bold.
Right, but it's not something I've really put a lot of thought into before. Because when I think about my favorite games, they're not deck builders.
Right.
But my favorite games have such versatility in between them that I can't narrow any of them down as being my favorite mechanic.
Fair enough.
Deck builders are definitely up there.
Deck builders are a great time.
Because, I mean, I think about like my favorite games, and like obviously Betrayal comes to mind. Pandemic's fantastic, and Betrayal is definitely a tile placing game. But then I think of other tile placing games, and I'm just like, ew. But deck builders, it's like 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10.
Right. There's not a lot of deck builders that we have run into that are anything less than fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we could make one that's lame and boring and stupid. But the thing with deck builders is it's just so easy to make them pop and to make them interesting and exciting. It's very easy to make them unique.
Yes. And again, obviously we love deck builders. Great games, almost always. Very versatile, very unique, very good time. Mm-hmm. With that, I think that's enough varies for this one. And
very much so.
Let's move on to the next mechanic. And I think this one might be worker placement.
Oh, we could do. Yeah, we can talk about worker placement.
I think worker placement's a good place to go.
Never played a worker placement game in my life. Take it away.
You are full of crap.
Yeah, probably. I played a lot of games.
So worker placement, the game that we own that comes to mind is Everdell.
Oh yeah, easily. So a worker placement game is a game where you've got little pawns or miniatures or whatever, and you put them on certain places that is going to in turn either give you resources or they're going to take very specific actions.
The layman way of explaining a worker placement is I'm going to put my guy here and it's going to do this thing. Whether that is give you resources or cards or whatever else.
Right.
It is, I'm going to put my worker on this spot and it's going to give me this action.
Right. So like Risk, I'm going to put my guy right here and it's going to attack you.
No.
And the reason no is because the troop isn't working. It's not doing something to advance your system, your playthrough.
Right.
In games like Risk, it's a troop placement is what it is.
Risk is actually considered an area control game.
It is.
And we'll get into area control in another video because there's a couple of games that we've played that fit that category that are super fun.
Yeah.
But we don't have a lot of experience with worker placements. Everdell is the biggest one.
Everdell is easily the one that comes to mind. Obviously, we've been playing it a lot recently. It's another game we've picked up in the last few weeks. So we played it a couple of times, obviously very fresh on our minds.
We've also covered the video. We've already done a couple of videos on Everdell for the podcast as well.
So the question is, do we have any other games that come to mind that we own or that we have played that are worker placement? And don't get me wrong, the answer is probably we've done it. The answer is probably we own it. The question is, do we
remember?
Right.
Because you got to keep in mind, between the two of us, we have a collection of over 200 board games.
And that definitely does not include all the games we have played. I mean, no. Obviously, neither of us own Dominion. I've played Dominion several times. You tried to play it once.
Right.
But yeah, between all the games we've ever played, worker placement games.
I'm not thinking of any off the top of my head. I'm really not.
See, my problem is that to take an action mechanic feels very familiar to my mind. Like it's something I swear there's got to be something else out there that we've done.
I mean, I'm sure there is. I'm just not thinking of any at this moment. I mean, so there's a game like...
Because, I mean, your workers are dice, but every time you place one down, it's doing something very specific.
Yeah, I could see Dungeon Allies as a worker placement.
Yeah, it's it's a little off the cuff because, I mean, instead of miniatures, you're placing actual dice around the board. But
I mean, there's not much of a difference there. I mean, the only difference is
like 7 different basic actions, and you put your thing there and it does the thing. Yeah, that's worker placement.
Yeah, that's worker placement.
Yeah, so Dungeon Allies.
Actually, Dungeon Allies, and we've kind of plugged this a little bit early before in a previous episode, but Dungeon Allies is actually developed by a local board game developer out of Idaho Falls, Idaho. Highly recommend checking him out.
They go by Joe Magic.
Dungeon Allies is a great game. Probably the best game that we've picked up from him, or Charles has picked up. Charles specifically bought.
It is my favorite game from him that I've bought. It is not my favorite game from him that I've played.
What would that be?
There is, I'm drawing a blank on it right now, but again, my brother actually found Joe Magic before I did and introduced me to his games. But there's another game where... it might be a type of engine builder, but you start off as you pick a background and you pick a profession, and then some cards come out, random cards on the field, and you collect various cards, and you build your character, and at the end of the game, whoever's got the strongest character wins.
Sounds fun.
Boy, how am I? Is it? Yeah, man, I'm pulling a huge blank.
Okay, well, we don't need to spend too much time on the name.
Plug that into the description, or down below on the podcast. So check it out. My personal favorite game from the guy. He's got a lot of good games, but I will also throw this out for anyone that's looking to buy any of his stuff online, or if there's anyone local watching that wants to go to a store in Idaho Falls, Idaho. Big disclaimer: Joe is a big board game fanatic like we are. And the games that he makes are a little convoluted. They are very rule heavy and very element rich. They are interesting games. They're fun to play. Most of the games he's made, I have found to be on the higher end of trying to learn them when it comes to games.
Fair enough.
They're good games, though.
I did notice last time that we ran into him, at least this last year, he had a booth at the Eastern Idaho State Fair.
That's true, yeah.
He had a very wide range of different types of games as well. He's got a game based around football. Mm-hmm. He's got a game, obviously Dungeon Allies. He's got Argosy, which is a space game. So he's got a wide variety of themes when it comes to his games as well. And he seems like a cool guy. The little bit that we actually talked to him, he seems super nice. Hopefully, in future episodes, we can maybe get him in here and do an interview.
Oh yeah, maybe
on the podcast. That'd be really fun.
No promises, but keep your eyes peeled. We might do an interview with the one, the only Joe Magic eventually.
That would be fun. That would be cool.
Get his take on what it takes to develop good board games.
That would be a really good episode, I think.
Yeah,
we should look into that sooner rather than later.
Probably,
I think that'd be
probably.
Cool.
Anyway, so worker placement games. You place the worker, it does a thing for you.
Super simple. I mean, obviously, if you caught our episodes on Everdell, you kind of understand how that game works. I don't think there's much more to go into with Everdell.
Well, the only other thing I can kind of say is that worker placements are going to feel a little bit like engine builders. Because if you take the right actions at the right times, you're going to see a little bit of a cascading effect. And it doesn't function exactly like an engine does because an engine keeps chugging along.
Right. And that's actually something that I was just going to talk about too. Is
that's the big difference. But in a worker, you can design your function in just a way that taking an action cascades itself several times.
Yes. Something with games like Everdell is you're not getting those abilities pinged every time you take your turn.
Right.
And that's kind of where the separation comes for me, specifically from an engine builder to a worker placement. But there are engine builder feelings when it comes to if you play properly in a worker placement, because it just every time that you activate those abilities, it just goes and goes and goes.
And it can feel so similar that in our Terraforming Mars video, in our strategy and rules guide, at the end we actually suggested dungeon allies, which I think is almost definitely a worker placement. We suggested dungeon allies as a game you might enjoy because it feels
if you
similar.
Enjoy the feel. It definitely wasn't suggested as a deck builder or an engine builder.
I'm not going to say it wasn't because I don't know for sure. We didn't throw that word out. We might have said that. Let me
rephrase. I don't believe it was suggested as an engine builder, but definitely something that has engine builder feels to it.
And if it was suggested as an engine builder, it's because we're stupid. So
if it was suggested as an engine builder, it's because we were misinformed at the time.
Misinformed. The words you're looking for is we did not have the correct knowledge to give you fair knowledge.
There you go.
Which means we were stupid.
Which means we were ignorant.
Sure. All right.
Semantics.
I can go with ignorant.
Semantics. Anyway.
Semi-intentionally ignorant. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers worker placement. Obviously, I mean, again, if you enjoy worker placement, check out Everdell, check out Joe Magic and Dungeon Allies. We will cover Dungeon Allies in a future episode.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows how long that's going to be, because we've got a lot of stuff to go through.
3.5 days.
I mean, 3.5 days from the time this episode is released? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Probably not.
Probably not. Because right now, I think our release schedule is planned every other week. We might go down to every week, especially where game nights have kind of fizzled out.
I definitely think that we will be releasing videos at a semi-consistent rate. So watch
very
for our
consistent.
Videos. We'll see what happens.
Fair enough. And I think that leads us to enough time to probably cover one more.
You know, I brought up Betrayal at the House on the Hill earlier.
Yeah.
That's a tile placement game.
Yes.
We love that game. Let's talk about tile placement.
We absolutely love Betrayal.
So a tile placement game is a game where, get this,
you place tiles.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
A little bit more elaborate of an explanation is you're placing tiles to generally expand a board game. Not always, but that's especially Betrayal. That's how that works. Obviously, there's other mechanics to Betrayal. You've got the haunt. You've got your little character that you're moving around the board. But the primary thing behind Betrayal is you enter a room, you pull a tile off the stack, you place it down, and you enter the room. The tiles are the rooms as you explore the mansion.
Yeah. So would you say that tile placement games generally are exploration games?
Not necessarily, because I know, I think King Domino is a tile placement where you're actually building a castle. I haven't played it. I've seen it on TikTok.
Right. How is that different than when you say building a castle?
Because you're not exploring the castle. You're trying to build the best castle with I think.
Sure.
Again, I don't want to give misinformation because I'm not super familiar with the game, right. But I'm pretty sure King Domino falls into the tile placement game, and I don't believe it's an exploration game.
Here is a game that I'm pretty confident in saying is a tile placement game where you don't place tiles. I own a game called Saboteur the Duel.
That's a good game.
And instead of placing tiles, you're placing cards. But I mean, they serve the exact same purpose.
Yes.
You're expanding the map. You literally pick up the thing, you put it down where you want it.
I don't know if I would call that an exploration game because it's more of a. I mean, you're mining.
So I mean, there's definitely hidden tunnels where you're exploring, and I mean, it might be more of path development rather than exploration. But I think they're very, very similar, very like
very similar
cousin type games,
right? Similar, even if Saboteur is not tile placement, it's a similar feeling between like a worker placement and an engine builder.
I'm kind of starting to regret bringing up tile placement because it's such a vague mechanic. Like it's literally it's almost not even a game type. It's literally just a mechanic in some games is what it is. Because you look at tile placement, hear me out. Azul, is that a tile placement game?
It could.
I have tiles and I place them.
It could theoretically be considered a tile placement, but I think the crux of a tile placement is player interaction. Where in Betrayal specifically, I play a tile, other people can interact with that space as well.
That's true.
And I think that's the difference between something like Azul versus a game like Betrayal or Saboteur.
So we're going to say Azul, the game where you place tiles, is not a tile placement game.
No, I wouldn't consider it a tile placement.
What about Forbidden Desert? I'm not placing the tiles, I'm just flipping them.
I wouldn't consider the Forbidden series a tile placement.
What is the Forbidden series?
That's a good question.
Answer Azul. Azul is a resource strategy game, is what it is.
Right. I think the research we did said abstract strategy game.
Sure. Yeah, we can call it abstract.
Where it's really doesn't have a specific strategy. Your strategy is kind of developed based on the game board that you're handed.
Well, I mean, yes and no. Are you talking about Forbidden again?
I'm talking about Azul.
Yeah, no, Azul. I've got a distinct strategy, and it works 9 times out of 10.
Fair
enough. Forbidden series.
But as far as the Forbidden series, I don't know if I can answer that on this episode. We can definitely do some research and add it to the show notes.
We can, we'll do some research
or the blog post.
Here's the thing.
And we can definitely cover those in a future episode.
The Forbidden series is definitely exploration. Well, Forbidden Desert is definitely exploration.
Yeah.
I would say Island isn't so much exploration.
No. But again, it's not about pulling a tile and placing it down.
Right.
I think they are tile games. I don't think they're tile placement games.
So what is another tile placement game?
Why am I blanking the name of it right now? There's another...
Mahjong. Dominoes
might be tile placement.
So here again is my problem.
I don't think so.
With throwing tile placement out is I'm not seeing really a feel for, I don't want to say theme, but like you look at Betrayal and you look at Saboteur, and I mean, if Dominoes is a tile placement game, there's not really any common denominators except I put the tile down.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying it feels more like a mechanic than a game style.
But I mean, that's what we're talking about is mechanics. Deck Builder is a mechanic. Engine Builder is a mechanic.
They are mechanics, but they are also styles because like Dungeon Allies. Dungeon Allies has some engine mechanic in it.
Yeah.
But it's not an engine builder game.
Right. So I think what we need to do at this point is do some research and maybe add it into the blog post or something.
Tell you what, on our next video about game styles and game mechanics, we will cover tile placement first. We'll make sure that we've got our information straight, and we will come at you with the most obscene information possible.
But I mean, Betrayal is our number one example
Betrayal
of a tile
absolutely
placement.
a tile placement.
There is another game that is coming to mind.
Solitaire.
No.
I was so close on that
one. I'm not remembering the name on it. Again, another game that I picked off of TikTok. That
Hive
is.
It's a tile.
No. Hive is a 2-player strategy game.
Also a Saboteur, and that one's definitely a tile placement game.
But it's not.
And you can interact with my tiles.
Well, I mean, you might be onto something there.
I think Hive is a tile placement
you might be onto something there. We're gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, we'll have some distinct, like Connor said, we're gonna put some information down in the notes below. But definitely, I think this is worth covering as a first option.
Right.
The next time,
just with a little bit more information behind us.
Yeah.
As I was saying with that game that I found off of TikTok, it's been described as a similar feel to Betrayal, but with more mechanics, more mechanics behind it. And I'm not remembering
dark.
It's like something House of Darkness or something.
Actually, House of Darkness sounds right.
There's
something slightly wrong about it.
Yeah. We'll add that one into the show notes too, into the blog post. But my understanding of a tile game, and we'll correct this if it's wrong in the next episode, is you have a tile, you place it down, and it can be interacted with by other players.
Dominoes.
No, because you can't. Maybe. I don't think so.
Check the notes.
Check the blog post.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on our episode today, guys. It's been fun. It's been real. I'm not sure I'd say it's been real fun.
Real quick, I just shared a video with Sheldon and Cecilio on Facebook.
Okay.
That says, you make me touch myself. And by touch myself, I mean rub my temples.
Oh, good Lord.
Anyways, thanks for joining us for another episode. It's been a fun time. We always enjoy doing these episodes. Make sure to follow us on social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure to leave a review. Make sure to share us with your other board game enthusiast friends.
Make sure to post comments and questions.
Any interaction we can get, help us grow the channel.
Help us learn. Help us help you learn.
We're always looking for feedback, always looking to make the show better for you, for us, for everybody. And with that, make sure that you're escaping the boredom, and we'll see you next time.